to She Plays the Podcast. I'm super excited to be joined by Kathy Murray today. Kathy is a former cheerleader and coach, and she's a new author. Her new book, called The Munich Cowboys Cheerleaders, is available on Audible, and it's based on her life living in Munich, Germany in the 1990s after she left her medical sales job to work as a fitness instructor. So lots that we can chat about there. Kathy, thanks for being on the pod.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. There's Munich is one, so living abroad, cheerleader and coach, and then leaving a medical sales job. So could, I guess, just paint the picture for us, I guess. How'd you wind up heading over to Germany and making that life transition?
Okay. Well, I started actually coming out of college at the Ohio State University. After I had stopped cheerleading, I began to teach aerobics after I stopped cheerleading. And then from the aerobic phase actually took me to a national aerobic championship, which I won. Yeah, so that was, at that time, it was called Crystal Light National Aerobic Championship. So I won that right out of college and traveled to Japan and all over the world. And then, of course, you get your degree and you say, I'm going to, use my degree. Went into medical sales, but had always taught fitness part-time during my medical sales job. And I did that started in Ohio, was moved to Pittsburgh. And probably after about 4 to 5 years, I was disenchanted by the corporate. I mean, I still had one foot in the fitness world. So that was my passion. And I got an opportunity. I went over to Europe to teach master classes in Italy and Munich while I was doing corporate. In corporate, my friend was a teacher and said, hey, we need someone to come over. Taught there. The studio said, hey, we're looking for an American instructor. And I was in Pittsburgh at the time. And I just said, subletted my apartment and I went on at that time, it was a 6-month contract.
Wow.
And I left corporate to say, this is not what I want. I have the safety net if I needed it, but I'm going to pursue my passion and become a fitness educator in Europe at the time, which led me to Germany, which led me to coaching. Someone found that I had won the national championship at Ohio State, and then I was a cheerleader. And then I went to go meet the girls and to see if I wanted to be their coach at that time. So that's kind of how everything evolved in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, and I know you mentioned the national championship, and you had a couple of state championships too in high school, I believe, right? And
yes.
Yeah. So can you tell me real quick because I know that level of competition is insane. I know that I think they used to do them down in Orlando. I don't know if they still do at Disney World.
Right.
Yeah. What is that experience like, being at the top level, both in high school and then, next level at college?
Right.
What did you learn? What was fun about it? What was hard? All that stuff.
Well, the winning's always fun.
Sure.
That's for sure. But I think what makes it even sweeter is, you're practicing, 4 or 5 days a week, and you're trying to hit that routine and make it, flawless. So when we had actually won the POM competition and at the state level and in high school, I think just any sports, whether it's cheerleading or whatever you go into, it really teaches that discipline and that determination and that drive to want to be the best, but to put the work in that you need to get there. So that was exciting in high school. The judges at that particular competition were Ohio State cheerleaders, which I had always wanted to be down there in the field, and I watched them, and that was a difficult transition because it was an all-female squad in high school. So I had to go from being a base and holding the other girls to being pitched in college with a co-ed team. So that, I think, as I became a coach, that really helped me to, when the girls got scared or anything like that, and or scared of heights, or became unsure with themselves I had that experience of going from holding people to a middle base where people were pitching another girl on me, and I was on top of a guy. That really gave me experience to say, look, I totally know where you're at. So that transition, especially from high school to college, was a totally different experience. I had to learn how to tumble, do gymnastics. That's a scary thing to do in your late teens to suddenly learn how to do a back handspring or do a back tuck. So
Sure.
I've always been one of those women that I just love the challenge, and I just put the effort and the hard work into doing that. So just that that I had a phrase that I had for my German girls that said, pain is only temporary, victory is forever. So whatever you're experiencing, you get your finger, tweaked, or someone falls on your head, when they announce your name and you go out there, all of that is not even a thought when you go out there to get that trophy.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as you were ending your college career, did you think, oh, one day I'd like to coach, or was that not even kind of on your radar until you landed in Germany and someone brought it up?
When I was at Ohio State and we would have clinics and camps, I did do some
Cool.
coaching for summer camps for girls 8 to 16 at the time, and different camps through Ohio State. But I always loved teaching and motivating and coaching. But it wasn't until they asked me to coach and I had no idea what I was getting into, because it's an American sport. So
Right.
when I started, they were just kind of making it up as they went
Okay.
along with videos. And when I saw them initially in their practices, first I was impressed that they knew the game, because even though they were German, they were cheering for American football, the Munich Cowboys. So they had to cheer in English. They knew the game. So I was like, okay, they're doing, but as far as skills,
Okay.
they were green. And so, here I am, American in Germany, and I'm a cheerleader and I'm a former championship. I thought, what, this is going to be a big challenge, but it was so gratifying to take them from they would always tease me and talk about all the forward rolls and different things that we used to do, because their skill level wasn't that high. And then once we started doing the championships, every championship, I was like, okay, now we're going to learn how to tumble. No one else is tumbling. You guys have to set the tone. So that type of thing, the stunts got harder, they got better. And it was just a great, when I went back and reconnected them and saw the actual championships, I thought, wow, I was really pleased at where we started and then where they went.
Yeah. I mean, you're starting something with, that collective group is starting something that, has grown and flourished. So that's amazing. There was a logistics question. I figured it was American football, because for people who are listening and don't know, there are different countries that play American football and they have their own leagues. I know Italy has one.
And they had one with the NFL. It was called NFL Europe.
Okay.
So at the time, I don't think they no longer have it, but that was really big when I was there. But you're right, when they would say football, it was automatically soccer.
Yeah.
So they would say American football. So I was really impressed that they had picked up the game and was trying to be cheerleaders.
Yeah. And so they're cheering in English, but at practice, are they speaking German or English?
They're speaking German.
Okay. And did you know German, or you were learning on the fly? Oh my gosh.
Learning on the fly. I mean, I tell my friends, I said, you guys just don't know what Google Translate has done to really help, because I had a little pocket dictionary.
Sure.
So I was going to school and I lived there and worked there. So every day I had to try to figure it out. The accent was really tough. And so the girls, they have to learn English.
Mm.
So because they were anywhere from 15 to
Oh.
21, they didn't have a school affiliation. So some girls were still in school and then some girls were working.
Mm.
But so some of them knew English, but only a few would like translate when I said, okay, this is what we're going to do today, or this is what I want to learn. And then as my ear got, a lot better, they could totally speak to me in German, and I could answer them back in English as my German to speak um, uh, got a lot better. But
Yeah.
I tell people, if you want to learn a language, go and live in that country,
Sure.
because there were days where I just didn't have it. Like I would go to order and they would go next because they couldn't understand. And then you're
Yeah.
sitting on the side thinking, how can I get that loaf of bread? So you have to go back and you have to practice, and
Mm.
you point a lot when you first get there. But yeah, German is definitely not an easy language.
No, no, not at all. And like you said, sometimes the accents can be very, very thick. And so, gosh, that's
Right.
amazing that you were able to do so much over translation. And yeah, like as you were learning, I mean, that's even cool for you learning multiple things all at once. You're learning to really
Right.
be a coach and like take responsibility for a team, but then also a language. That's incredible.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
really do like
it was a
taking on
lot.
challenges. Yeah, yeah.
That's true.
Well,
Exactly.
when you talk about the championships for them, and by the way, if there's something in your book that you're like, no, the listeners need to get my book and read it, feel free to
Mhm.
just say that. I don't want to give away
Okay.
everything. But
Okay.
the championships that you led them to, are those a German, like within Germany, a
Mhm.
championship?
Yes, they have regional
Okay.
championships. So when they first told me that they had championships, I was like, okay, let me look, let me see it. And then they showed me the tape. And I was like, okay, well, they're trying, they had the music and the cheers just like America did. Um, and then I had to find out, what was the requirements. Okay, you have to do a cheer, then you have to do a chant, and you have to do a certain dance. And so once I got all that together, I kind of used the material that they had at the time and kind of incorporated it in, and then also used my own choreography to teach them transitions and things like that. But yeah, they were regional, and then we went from regional to all the way to the German championship, and then also to the European championship. So
Amazing.
they every level they have every level there.
Yeah, very cool.
Mhm.
And so how long were you over there and doing this work?
Well, I initially planned on only being there for 6 months,
Right.
and because the contract was 6 months initially that I had with the studio, and then I extended it to 10 months or 4 months, 4 more months. So, and at that point, I knew I was not going to go back to medical sales. So
Yeah.
I was just trying to make it work. And then I also was a fitness educator where I would actually do the big conventions on the weekends for instructors, because
Okay.
they had a certification program. So we were teaching the Germans and Europeans about aerobics. So we had certification programs. They were bringing a lot of Americans, which is where
Mm.
I came in to teach them, cueing and anatomy and all the stuff that happens. So I was doing that on the weekends as well. So I was very busy.
Yeah.
But with the championships, I just said we just have to just keep on, taking it up a notch. So it was a great experience.
Very cool. And
Mhm.
so when did you come back stateside, and now you're in Georgia and chose to write a
Oh,
book?
God.
So what have you been doing since coming back? And
Yeah, I forgot that I didn't really answer your question. I went from
oh,
6 months to 5 years.
5 years.
I
Okay,
ended
cool.
up being in Germany for 5 years, moved back to the States, and then we had already started winning the championship. So they would fly me back
Oh, cool.
for an additional 3 years. I flew back and did their choreography
Wow.
until I started my own fitness studio here called Fit Bodies in Atlanta, and then I couldn't really go back
Yeah.
and forth as much as possible. So went into fitness, didn't look back to corporate. Started my own. Actually, I started my personal training business in Germany.
Cool.
So they had an English speaking magazine, and I took an ad out and said, American fitness trainer in Munich, and that's how I started my Fit Bodies
Very cool.
personal training. And then I brought it back over to the United States, continue to do that, coach the girls from, afar. And then one of my clients is a New York best-selling author in historical fiction named Martha Hall Kelly. And she had heard me talk about, my time. And Amazon came to her and said, hey, we want you to do an Audible original. And she came to me and said, I really want to pitch your story about you winning the national aerobic championship and then cheerleading and going to teach in Germany. And you went through all of this stuff. And I was like, really? And she said, yeah. So we pitched it and they loved it. And that's how the book came about.
Cool.
I had to reconnect with the girls, which was funny. I mean, they were my Facebook friends, but we hadn't really spoken. So when I started reaching out, they kept on texting me saying, someone's hacked your account.
Oh,
Someone's pretending like they're you. And I'm like, no, it's me. I'm trying to reach you guys. And we talked about the book, and I kind of had to go back and look at films and talk to the girls. And they were teenagers, and now they're, wives, mothers, professional women in their 40s now. So it was great reconnecting with them for the book.
yeah. Well, and that's the special thing too about that whole coach athlete relationship. There's just a bond that gets forged most times that even if you lose touch 10 years later, you could you could get a message from your coach and you're like, yes, what do you want me to do? I'll do it. Like, you want me to run sprints? Let's do it. So I'm sure that was sweet for them. Yeah.
It was so nice. And 3 of them are in cheerleading.
Oh, cool.
So
Look at that.
yeah, one coaches their all-star team. It's called the Munich All-Stars. They cheer for basketball. And 2 of them started their own equipment because we had to order the uniforms from America at the time.
Oh,
and
wow.
European sizes and American is different. So 2 of the girls started their own company where you could get pom-poms and all the equipment and shoes in Europe. So
Genius.
that was just awesome seeing that they were so touched about being cheerleaders, and then they've made it their own careers.
Yeah. Oh, that's really sweet to
really
see.
cool.
Yeah. Well, when you look back, what is something that makes you say like, yeah, I'm really proud of myself. This was like a really, let's start there. Yeah. What's something that when you look back, you're just like, wow, I did that kind of thing?
I think the biggest thing is because it's already hard as a coach dealing with, 15, 20 personalities, and they're young, and, boyfriends and school and work. And so it's already hard as far as a coach, and you have to have a lot of patience. But unfortunately for me, back in the 90s, being African-American, and there was a lot of anti-American racism. I mean, even my white friends were like, oh my gosh, guess what happened to me today? So, people weren't happy all the time to see that you were there. But, I would get pulled over by the police, on my bike, and, just a lot of racist things that went on. So trying to navigate being there and working there, and then dealing with this outside, but then not trying to let that spill over in me as a coach on, I just had a bad day. I just got pulled over by the police on my way to practice. When I started recounting all of the different things that I went to, that's what made me say, wow, you know what? I went through some things, but I was still was able to be successful, at what I was doing. So that's probably the biggest, wow, I did that. I think I have a quote that says, if you're not challenged, you won't be changed. Challenges change who you are.
Sure.
And when I look back and see all the challenges and the things that I had to go through, and now I'm able to write my story about it, that makes me feel really good.
Wow.
That I just didn't pack up and go. Luckily, I'm one of these first people that say, bring it. Okay, I'll just try harder.
Yeah, such resiliency. My gosh, it's that'll be powerful for the people who saw you in that time and maybe didn't know some of that was going on, and to know that, like, my gosh, what you were dealing with.
No,
It's
even some of my girls, I mean, they
yeah.
listen to the podcast, and I have to kind of give them a heads up, like, you guys did not know any of this was
Mm,
happening. And
wow.
so, well, besides when, the coaches and the judges weren't happy that they had an American coach. So
Mm,
we got screwed,
wow.
a couple of times. So to they saw that really did I don't think they really understood it at the
Mhm.
time, because they were like, well, you told us to hit the routine, and we have more difficulty, and so we should win. And when that didn't happen, that was a hard thing to explain
Mm,
to them at that age on, yeah, life isn't fair. And,
mhm.
everything is, sometimes people are going to just stick it to you just to stick it to you. And so guess what? We're just dusting ourselves off, and we're going to come back, and we're going to just make it even, we're going to make it so obvious that we got cheated.
Right.
So those kind of skills, I think I'm very proud of, and to reconnect with them, and then for them to remember all the stuff, the little mantras about, pain is only temporary, success is victories forever. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So I
Mm.
would have a mantra every championship, and I would
Oh,
carry
cool.
that sign around, and I carried all the way to championships. And a lot of them were like, well, when I, when I have a business meeting with my team, I use this for my, and that just blew me away that they kept those types of things, and now they're using it as adults. So
Mhm.
that just made my, that was just awesome to hear
Yeah.
that.
A legacy, a living legacy, right? Because that's just
Mhm.
gonna keep getting passed down. That's incredible.
Right.
That is
Right.
awesome. Very cool. Well, and yeah, like,
Yeah.
so then you started your own company, which is amazing in and of itself too, down in Atlanta. So, or even just in Germany, as you said, and then
Right.
coming back and starting your own thing. That's incredible. I think I know we'll wrap up here. So one quick question, and then we'll make sure people can learn how to connect with you. But what, as an athlete and a coach, do you think really helped mold and shape you into someone who would take on creating their own business, or someone who has stuck in the aerobics industry for decades? What do you think
Mhm.
sports taught you about yourself and about your abilities to do that?
Wow, that's a good one. Um, I think probably one of the things that jumps out at me is, I think, just the discipline,
Mm,
at playing sports. You got to practice, um, uh, and you just have to work hard, even though you may not be the best, at it. And that's like I would tell the girls, okay, some of you guys don't learn as quick as the other ones, but the ones that don't learn as quickly, you have to go home and you have to put the time in,
mm,
and make that a priority. So definitely, and the discipline and being competitive, and
mm,
not letting someone tell you, you can't do that. And because, I mean, you see all kinds of athletes that aren't the best technique wise, but their work ethic is,
mm,
and I think that has been the biggest. I just did, I'm a triathlete, and I had to race in a category um, uh, this weekend that is usually, you do age group categories. So you race against people in your age group, but the aqua bike, I had to race against people that are 20, 25 years younger than I was. So I think that, like, I am just going to put it all out there, where you're just so competitive. I just think that has really helped me coming up through. I played softball. I mean, I was one of those kids that, I may not have been best, but I played volleyball. I'm 5'3", I played basketball. I just love movement, and I love sports. So I may not have made the team, but even, playground or after school, I was always, doing something. So just being not being afraid to try new things and work hard at the things that you may not be gifted to do.
Hmm. Oh my gosh, I love that. And that is so translates to business, right? And starting your own company, because
Oh,
there are things you're going to
everything.
have to do that you do not want to do, and you might not be the
Right.
best at it, but it's got to
That's
get
true.
done.
And
So
disappointment, in
yeah.
life. If someone tells you, you know, I don't think you're, when I was, even when I was going to medical sales, they were like, well, you don't have experience. So you have to be convincing and sure of yourself to say, well, if you train me, you know,
Mm,
I can be better,
yeah.
and then even got that shot when I was in corporate. And then, like I said, trying to learn another language as an adult, that was, I wanted to be there. I needed to be there for a reason, obviously. And I just would go home. I had friends that I would, even the girls, they always wanted to practice their English. And I said, I cannot learn German if you guys speak English to me.
Right.
You have to let me fumble,
Yeah.
fumble
Yeah.
along with my bad accent. They just thought it was the cutest, when I would speak it. And I'm like, okay, now you're giving me a complex. So they were really great at, making me learn, speaking German, which
Yeah.
really helped.
No, that's awesome. It is true. Yeah. You can go to a country too and still find people that are speaking your language. And it is harder to learn the language if you're speaking your native tongue. So
That's true. That's
yeah.
true.
Well, just a couple quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
I am curious. I'm sure you get this all the time, but those Bring It On movies, are those legit or not so legit? You know the ones I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, they're very entertaining. And
Yeah.
you normally have your we had and this is true in the book. We had the honeybees. So you always have a team that you're going up against, and you have to look at their strengths and weaknesses, and you have to weak. So I love those movies because and even in college, we had certain groups that you knew they were Kentucky or these other schools are bringing it, and you wanted to win. So
That's awesome.
but yeah, I love those movies. Any type of sports movies, it's
Yeah.
just so great,
Gets those
and
competitive juices going already. Yeah.
right, exactly.
Do you have a favorite cheer that you still remember and love?
Oh, wow. um Not really. I
Yeah.
mean, I have, I'm watching the Ohio State games and on the weekends, and I look at some of the music and things like that brings me back
Yeah.
to great times
Right.
with high school. And I'm Facebook friends with all my high school teammates, and it's great for them to say, well, remember when this happened, or they'll share photos. And so just you know, just the whole experience,
Yeah, I'm sure it does
with
take you right
cheers
back.
and yeah, cheers and dances. And I was at an Earth, Wind and Fire concert, and they played a song that we used to dance to for the band in college. And, so it always takes you back.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, and just last one, and this is probably a doozy, but like, who would you say is your favorite athlete? Like, who inspired you either when you were younger or inspires you today? Just like, who do you think is just the best of the best?
I have to say, Serena. I've just watched her journey. I saw the
Mm,
movie, and that is an example of it doesn't matter where you come from. And they're both of the Williams sisters, their work ethic.
mm,
And luckily they had their father to push them, but their work ethic, and for her to get where she is. And what's so great about that too is she's retiring on her terms. She's not
yeah.
washed up. She's still really strong. She still probably could play for several more years. But the fact that she said, okay, next chapter, I know she has a clothing line, and she has a production company. But yeah, she has been just an outstanding athlete, and and just such an inspiration and motivation for anybody coming up in the sports on her work ethic and never say die. So I would definitely have to say Serena.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Well, it has been such a pleasure to chat with you, and just thanks again for coming on. Where can folks find you online, and where can they get your book?
Okay, well, my book is called The Munich Cowboys Cheerleaders. It's available on Audible. And I have to encourage you, some people are like, I've never listened to Audible book, to encourage you to listen to it. It's so great on being there and hearing it's just like, I'm taking you for the journey myself, because you're listening to it versus reading it. So the Munich Cowboys Cheerleaders, my website is fit-bodies, B as in boy, ODIES.net. And you can find me on all my social media platforms there.
Awesome. Well, we will put all of those links in the show notes, so check them out. And just thanks again for taking the
Thank
time
you,
to come
Ashley.
on.
Thank you for having me. It's been very fun being here.